Eoghan Corry joins me on the line. Eoghan, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us today. Again, I'm looking at vaccinations, and I see that more vaccination hubs indeed have been unfolding in Dublin Airport. The antigen test is there as well. Is that being accepted now, though, by airline companies?
The debate is still out there, and there are two tests. There's one for €89 and one for €95 at Dublin Airport. The antigen is going to come into play a little bit more in the coming weeks. One of the reasons being that America has now decided that antigen will be sufficient to get in, and they are introducing that on January the 26th, which is Tuesday week. Until now, you could. At the moment, they haven't changed the passport regulations. You have to have US passport, but all arrivals from Ireland are going to require a test, and it only need be an antigen test. Antigen has been accepted by quite a few other countries. You get quite confused because we, as a nation, as of midnight tonight, are only accepting people with PCR tests. It's not going to get less confusing. It's going to get more confusing because antigen, LAMP and PCR is accepted, for instance, in Germany, which is one of our big markets. Spain are going to require a PCR. The other three big markets out of Ireland, France, Portugal and UK, do not require tests in advance. But obviously, as of midnight tonight, people returning, including Irish citizens, will need a PCR test in advance. 72 hours in advance for, in our case, coming in. Some countries are 48, most notably America, from the, as I say, Tuesday week is when they introduced their. Very confusing, Kate, so it's important to clear up everything in advance, but the airlines will be emailing and texting people saying what exactly the requirement is.
How are the airlines doing? Because I was on Flight Tracker last Saturday morning. I was sitting down looking at and Dublin Airport.
That Flight Tracker, Keith.
Sorry?
Stay away from that Flight Tracker. It's very depressing looking at the moment.
Isn't it just? Well, it's depressing looking that you can't go anywhere, but there was quite a few flights coming in from Malaga, all of the Canary Islands. They were coming in from Paris, Amsterdam. They're coming in from Dubai, United Arab Emirates. So Dublin seems to be fairly busy, but I wonder what is the bums on seats like?
Not busy. 8,000 passengers at the beginning of January. It's going to be down to about half of that. We've about 26 flights arriving today. A lot of the US, Middle Eastern flights still going. Like the Canary Islands, for instance, you'd have a couple of flights daily. You've got one a week at the moment. And as of the end of January, Michael O'Leary has said, I'm just going to stop serving their flights across their network. I think last Wednesday were something like 140 flights across the entire Ryanair network, 27 countries. They normally do that out of Dublin in a day at this time of the year. End of January, we'll see it reduced further to a trickle because of the cost. We're still allowed to fly, but if you're paying €130 per person and a family of four trying to travel anywhere and having to do it the other direction, it just turns every single airfare into the cost of what used to be going to America a few years in 2019.
Yeah, but you and I spoke about this last week, if not the previous week, in relation to not last week. But if the airline companies teamed up with somebody to get these tests done and give them at a better price, the whole volume side of things, surely more people would consider taking it. I know somebody who's retiring in the next couple of weeks, and they've booked their ticket to go down to one of the Canary Islands. I don't know which, and they're going down there for 4 months, and that's it. They said they hope.
The Canary Island rates are very, very low. It's 100. It's over 1,000 in Ireland over the 14-day cumulative. Theirs is around 140, be 1/10 of ours. So anybody who can lock down abroad, and a lot of people are already doing so. You don't talk about it much because there's a little bit of calling out people who have gone to lockdown abroad. But you're absolutely right. Airlines and airports indeed have set up partnerships and things like that. But most of it has been in the sort of the revenue sharing side rather than bringing down the cost. The airlines, have brought their revenue model is going to be to try and put flights in the air as cheaply as possible, and then they look for ancillary revenues out of these sharing. The system might be tweaked a little bit to reduce overall cost by some of the more inventive and more nimble airlines. We may even have one of those in the island. But certainly what I'm looking at the moment is our tests are much, much more expensive than they are in every other European country.
Absolutely. Can I ask you, because I'm just looking at the screen here and we have about 5 calls, when does Eoghan think we will be able to travel? Now, if you knew that, you'd be a very wealthy man.
I'll tell you, the people who have money at stake, the airlines are looking at April. They're saying Ryanair are going to get about 50% of the fleet back in the sky from those first 3 months, April, May, June, and then they're looking at getting about 75% of their fleet back. For July, August, September, they're hoping to stimulate the market. We're going to see the father and mother seat sales, the sort of €5 to Spain sale fares that some listeners will remember going back to the global recession around October 2009. We saw sales like that. All of that is predicated by numbers coming down and Europe bouncing in and out of lockdowns and curfews, like France is bringing forward its curfew tonight by 2 hours. All of those things are outside the aviation control, but they have to make plans. And they're saying from April we'll be travelling again, and they're hoping for a few things to come right, like the vaccination rollout, like the numbers across Europe, and government decisions that don't have us bouncing it up and down out of lockdown.
Eoghan, keep up the good work, and we shall talk to you soon. And where can they get further every time you come on, I mean to ask you, where can they get further details of what we speak? Because you write extensively on this, so where can they go to get them? I do
indeed, and I will be fitting up my social media presence. Travel Extra, sadly, which I used to represent, is no more, but I will be fitting up the social media presence. At the moment, like everyone else, it tends to be just, like so many other things, just tends to be broadcast on whatever you can get on my Twitter feed when I have the time to feed it, because staying on top of this is like it's like a massive gerbil wheel. I've never been this busy.
And you're not getting paid for it, so you're not. We'll have to have a conversation about that. Eoghan Corry, thank you indeed for joining us.